This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Respectonomics is bringing you a Living Dignity series episode, and this one is on success, literally on success. And we're going to be talking about success as part of our human endeavor. One of the characteristics of success, one of the things that many of us work with, is we think we want to be successful. We believe we know what success means. The snag is we experience a phenomenon called fear of success. And fear of success is a complex behavioral attribute of the human being. It results from, quite honestly, it often comes, I shouldn't say results from, it is often found in firstborn children. The reason for that is the firstborn comes along and the parents are immediately looking at this miracle of birth, and every single dynamic that takes place in that child's development becomes iconic. It becomes a point of great recording, a place where we say, this is what happened on June the 15th, look at it on June the 18th, and we move along the scale. It's also fair to say that when a child is maybe the second, the third, the fourth child, and the child says to the parent, yes, I just got a paid scholarship at one of the major universities, the parent will look up and say, really? It takes a rather diluted form of appreciation once you get beyond the first child. First children often have this fear of success. It can be an experience that comes out of guilt. It can be that expression of I am not worthy. It can be one finds oneself being successful and then recognizing that one has moved far ahead of maybe one's siblings, maybe one's parents, maybe all kinds of people. And you get a sense of guilt and you go, I really don't think I deserve this. So you get into these fears of not being able to reach your full potential. One of the characteristics of a fear of success is someone who specializes in their product to the point of, should we call it ad nauseum, at the point where they literally will not discuss it until they have covered off every single detail, every item of knowledge. I will not talk about this until I know everything about it. Whereas the person who doesn't have fear of success says, well, I've got an idea. I'm going to take it out there and see what happens to it. So fear of success can be inhibiting. It's also classically one of those things where you think that you have this ability to do something, and you do it extremely well. By the way, you're usually very motivated. You do it extremely well. Here's the paradox. You do it extremely well, and then you breathe and say, whew, I can't do that again. And sure enough, you can't. So your performance in that particular area goes tumbling down. And then you can look at this scale of, I was up and now I'm down, and I can say, I told you I couldn't keep it up. And then as you come down, you start thinking, well, I better get back up again, and up you go again. So this vacillation, these fluctuations in performance are very typical of somebody experiencing fear of success. In order to bring the fear of success into a home run, meaning, in other words, where we can bat it out of the park and say, no, I am going to work with my skills and my talents. And the first one is, in a very straightforward manner, recognizing one's own skills and talents. And that is achieved by, and we've mentioned this before, but letting yourself into a little secret. The secret is the 25 things that you like about you. You know, when you hear about that, you first think about, what do I like about me? The first thing that happens is you sort of think, well, can this turn into some sort of arrogance or elitism? In fact, it's the opposite. It's very humbling when you come to grips with the things that you're good at, the things that you like about you, that you can almost say you never earned, you never worked on. They are part of your inner character. They're part of your DNA, if you will. But if you have that kind of experience, it is a great way to bring forward those talents that you have that can be put to good use. It's also fair to say that when we talk about success, we tend to think of it as being successful for oneself. And there's a little bit of a side to this that doesn't get explored very often. And it's this. When we say somebody is successful, the definition of being successful naturally depends on being successful within the context of one's own ambitions and ideas and aspirations. That's fine. But there's another success, and that is breathing success into other people's lives. So classically, if a salesperson is successful by allowing someone else to succeed and bringing enjoyment and pleasure and value to somebody else's life. That is the definition of success. Success is not a single animal that is restricted to oneself. It is symbiotic. It goes with other people. And other people enjoy your success because they've benefited from your success. So to be successful does not mean chalking up dollar signs. It means that the dollar signs are really just like a measuring device. They measure what you're doing. But if the dollar signs are measuring your success and your success then mirrors the success that you have bred and enabled in other people's lives, then that is the true measure of success. It's thoroughly enjoyable and it's self-motivating. If we're frightened of success, we may be downplaying our skills. That's why we emphasize this idea of coming to grips with and recognizing the things you like about you. Here's a little humbling part of, again, because the things you like about you that you can say, for example, I like the way I handle myself. I like the way I greet people. I like the way that I can write a letter. Whatever it is you like about you, those are the same things that other people like about you. So all you're doing is respectfully drawing yourself into the admiration circle of other people and thanking them indirectly for the respect and for the dignity that they are allowing into your life because they see it. So we're allowing our skills, we're allowing our talents to come to the surface. We recognize fear of success in the sense that, excuse me, we recognize the risk of success not being maintainable. And sometimes it, strictly speaking, is not. Change of circumstances, change of climate, change of anything. And we may not be able to do it. But let's be able to acknowledge that as being a physical intercession in our lives rather than something that we intentionally or volitionally let slip and said, oh, no, I'm not as good as I thought. No, we are every bit as good as we thought, but we have to give ourselves the tools to see how good we are. There's one last thing to do. We've talked about recognizing our own talents, the things that we're good at, and how these are imparted into other people's lives and the benefit of doing that. That's an aspiration in and of itself. If my success breeds your success, I want you to be successful because that implicitly means I am being successful. But when the chips are down, one of the things that's very useful is to get into the business of writing a journal. And a journal goes something like this. It's not something, it is like this. You write down, what did I do today? And then you correspond to that with, what did I feel about what I did today? And we've talked about this before, but sometimes we engage in activities that on the surface we might say wouldn't bring us pleasure, but when we've actually done them, we say, I am so glad I did that. Conversely, we can do things that we think are going to give us pleasure, and then we afterwards look at it and say, well, that wasn't such a bright idea after all. But putting it in writing is a very powerful tool. Let's summarize writing for a moment. Writing is one of the most ancient of arts. The caveman did it, didn't he? Writing these, hieroglyphics on the cave walls and so on. Writing is a tremendously old human characteristic with enormous benefits. You can prove it. You write a letter to somebody complaining about whatever it is you're complaining about. Classically, you've stayed at a hotel or a motel and you've written a letter to say, worst hotel I've ever stayed at, blah, blah, blah. And what do you actually do with that letter? When you've written that letter, you've satisfied your own sense of, what would you call it, hostility, and it has been taken care of, and that letter is then discarded completely and goes into the garbage can. We have this ability to be able to write, and by writing what I did today and what I felt about what I did today is one of the most powerful tools we have available to building up one's sense of esteem, one's sense of dignity, and one's sense of self-worth. So writing is very powerful. Recognizing one's skills is a powerful antidote to the I am not worthy. Yes, you are worthy because it has been created in you to have these capacities, to have these talents and skills, and the world is waiting for them. So the question today is, have you given the world what it's asking for?